Hi, welcome to Plants with Nat. Today is episode 1, all about watering your plants. I'm sharing all of the things that I wish I would have known before I started out with houseplants. So I want to share how you can understand if your plant needs more water. First thing I want you to do is I want you to get a pot, any kind of pot, and I want you to get some potting soil. Don't come for me for my potting soil. This is just what works right now. So you're gonna put some soil in. We're not planting anything right now. Fill it, about midway, that's good. What I want you to do is to feel what the soil feels like when it's dry. Because when I first got my houseplants, everyone was like, oh, put your finger in and feel if it feels wet or if it's dry. And I was like, I don't even know how to tell that, which seems silly, but it's true. So you'll just put your finger in and feel what the soil feels like. And then I want you to take a watering can and you're just gonna water your soil. Give it a minute to soak through. And then I just want you to fill the soil and see what it feels like. Pretty simple, so you get a pretty good idea of what it's gonna feel like when it needs water and what it doesn't. And then you can let it dry out for an hour or two, even a day, just to get used to what your soil is going to feel like. Now I wanna talk about 3 ways to know if your plant needs water. It can be helpful to go on Google and see what your plant's watering needs are, but since the biggest plant killer is overwatering, I like to go with when in doubt, let the soil dry out. So here is my spider plant right here. It needs water. So I'm gonna lift it up so that I know what the plant feels like when it needs water. I'm going to water it, then I'm gonna lift the plant up again. And so this is gonna give you an idea of what your plant feels like before it's watered and then when it's watered. Another trick that I really like is called the chopstick trick. You just stick your chopstick down into the soil and pull it out and see what it looks like. So this plant is going to need to be watered soon. So when I pull the chopstick out, it should be pretty dry. This is another thing where you can look on Google if your soil should be dry all the way down, 50%, 25%, it depends on the plant. But I like to stick it all the way down. Again, when in doubt, let your soil dry out. Okay, and I pull it out. And if you can see, there's a little bit of soil, and when I feel it, it's a little wet, just a little bit. So I'm gonna give this plant probably a couple more days before I water it. And then I wanna show you this plant that I just watered. I'm gonna stick the chopstick all the way down. And then when it comes out, you can see that it's definitely damp and there's quite a bit of soil that's clinging to it.
Here's another example of a plant that doesn't need water right now. And this is a great example of a plant that doesn't need water right now.
And then my favorite method is just using your finger. And you'll be able to get used to this as you use your own pot of dirt and feel what it feels like when it's wet, when it's dry, or when it's finally dry. I just stick my finger in halfway, all the way as far as I need to go for my plant, and then I'm able to see if it needs more water. So again, I wish I would have known this at the beginning of my plant journey because overwatering is the biggest killer of plants. So if you're able to know the ways to check and see if your plant needs water, then you should be good to go. Stay tuned for my next video on how to make sure you're watering correctly.